The part is now been probably curing for about 16 hours, so it's definitely good and cured at this point. The best way to tell is you're able to touch your hand on there and it's not tacky feeling. If it's still tacky, give it a little bit longer. Some resins tend to leave a tacky surface on it because it's made to be a laminating resin, so it's basically keeping it tacky on the surface to allow the underside to be pure, so when you laminate a new layer over it, it will basically bond or dissolve that tacky layer and remend to the second layer. What I like to do before I remove the part is I like to use a permanent marker. This is a Sharpie, any color, and I tend to trace the outline of the underside mold. Being that this item is partially transparent, I can actually see where the mold line is at, and I can draw on the actual part, and then I can once it's removed off of here, I have a marker of knowing where I can actually cut the residual or excess material off of it. I tend to give myself a small fraction, 1/16 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch more in material past the mold line, so that way I got room to shave a little bit more off if I need. Like I said, it's easier to take away than it is to give back. So make sure that you're going to do your parting, that you think through it, and just mark it, cut it, and you'll be ready to go. So I will kind of show you. I'll bring the camera down and show you how I'm going to trace it out, and then we'll pause, and then we'll kind of move from there. And that, just stand by. All right, we're back, and here's what it looks like. And as you can see the parting line through here. A lot of times, being that this is foam, there could be some inconsistencies as far as the straightness of it. So I tend to, I'll pick a point from one here and then another point somewhere down, and then I can use a ruler and trace to give myself a straight, clean parting line. In this instance, I do have some inconsistencies in it, as you may see. So what I will do is probably put a tick mark and another tick mark over in here. But as you can see, as you go around, I can see the shape of the item. And from what you can see in the video, the part is super smooth. As far as you can see the texture of the glass, but for the most part, this will be minimal prep time to get a nice, good, smooth surface that's ready for paint. Through the front, it's the same thing. I mean, the edge is not clear or clean, it's more rounded, and that's simply due to the amount of layers that was placed on there, and this is an external mold, not an internal mold. So this will require some work in order to get a nice crisp edge on there, but we can cover that later. But as you can see, I will have to come through here and draw my parting line on here, so because there is a slight slope. So, and then sanding afterwards will actually clean that up. But this is where we're at, and I'll go ahead and draw a couple lines, and then we'll touch base so you can see my lines, how I got it done, and then we'll move to remove the item. All right, I've now drawn my lines, and as you can see, I have straightened it out here and here, and then created, using a straight edge, drew this out, and then of course followed on. And I don't know if you can see, there's a small amount of distance between the edge here and the actual where I drew my line. That's so I got room to shape. And then on the bottom, this is actually dropped down probably 1/4 of an inch. This is so I can help correct any kind of symmetrical problems that may be. Once the actual mold was made by eyesight to be somewhat symmetrical. I've used templates in the front, and then that gives me my arch shape here. And then the tail light section was already in there, and I could actually feel it through the foam. So I'm able to get a really good symmetrical shape here. So when it's all said and done, you know, as we shape it, then I may be able to throw gauges on it and to make sure that I have symmetrics to the actual item. But I wanted to show you what it looked like with the parting lines. At this point, I'll set the camera up and then we will remove the seat cowl from the external mold and let you see how that looks, and then we'll move forward. All right, we're back. And we're at this point, we're ready to remove the item from the actual mold. I highly recommend using a pair of leather gloves because the cured sections of this, they can become very sharp like needles, and they can get in your skin and break off at the surface of your skin, so you could get a splinter in your fingers. So I highly recommend using a pair of gloves to help dismount or demold the item. And it's going to be pretty simple. You find your edges, you start lifting on it, and you'll hear it kind of snapping, and you can actually see through the actual component that it's lifting off of the tape. Try not to over flex it, just gradually move it. As it comes off, you'll see it coming off. And voila, we have a part. As you can see, our mold is still in great shape. We have a nice hollow inside here, and you can kind of see what your residual material is. And then here again, I see my parting lines. That allows me to cut this off and then start my prep work for the undercut areas of this that's going to meet up against the subframe. Then I can start putting mounting points or drill holes, whatever I need to do, but we'll cover that in a later episode. But as it stands, here she is, nice and done, and we are ready to move on to the next episode or the next phase of this project. I will most likely go ahead and remove the mold from here, which will be very simple. It's just simply cutting the tape and all the wrap, and then it just pulls right off, and you're ready to go. Once the mold is off, it can be kind of difficult. It depends on how much material you put in on here, but there's that piece. That was the initial wrap, and part of the wrap that's underneath this is still in there. So we just take that and just peel it right off. As you can see, the stuff peels right off of that tape. And so you're not left with any residue on the components that you don't want to get this stuff stuck to. And you can get to a point, you don't have to sit there and peel it all off, but get to a point where you can actually just start cutting the material and then just unwrap it like I did. I don't want to cut on my tail light that's in here. I'm trying to keep that protected. Voila, she's nice and clean. So you got to see how I have everything mounted. I have my strap in place. I had everything in here that I need to worry about that needs to be underneath the actual seat cowl. So this is it. Stay tuned for the next batch of videos. It's coming up next.